everyone, and welcome back to our channel. If you don't know who we are, but I'm pretty sure you do by now, or if you're new, I'm Cassandra. This is Mom. We are Millennial and Mom. If you can see our shirts, mine says love. It wasn't because of Married at First Sight. I just wore this because it's Valentine's Day coming up soon.
Why are you doing all like this? Why are you doing all like this?
Because it says love right here.
I know, but
and Mom
you know.
says over it because she is already over this season. Well, particularly some of the cast in this episode. So this is Married at First Sight, season 14, episode 5. What is this called? It's not a short thing, but we already knew that though. Who didn't know that?
I don't know. I may have to wear this shirt going forward for the rest of the season because I'm over it. I was over it last season, and I'm still over it because as individuals and as couples, and we even have like taken a cue from like the Jasmine show, like there's two singles on the show. Like, what type of show is this?
I cannot tell you. Like, this is some like Love Island. I cannot tell you, but it's definitely not Married at First Sight. But we're going to skip all that right now because we are going to do that in a live coming up soon. But let's just go into this episode. Who are you starting off with first?
Today's a day of activities, and first we see Mark and Lindsey. She asked him, okay, so did you have to bring all the goldfish? And I want to know that too. Like, why do you bring so many goldfish with him? Like, he didn't think he was going to eat nothing, or is that like really his snack of choice? But he goes on to say, you know, he don't have any complaints and
He don't have no complaints?
No,
His
about
face
anything.
is complaining.
Well, that's later on. And Lindsey was asked, have you guys consummated marriage yet? And she's like, I'm like, oh, so you shy now, huh, Lindsey? So today's activity is for Mark and Lindsey. They decide that they're going to go down and make drinks because Mark has never made any type of real drink anyways, because she's like, have you ever had a pina colada? He's like, yeah, I had one last night when you was up in the room. I was like, okay, the shade. You know, when she was up there crying because whatever happened on the bus, right? So they go down to the bartender and he learns how to make a pina colada, and she drinks and she's like, oh my God, brain freeze. And Mark is like, I don't think I've ever had one of those. I'm like, you never had a brain freeze, have you?
I'm not too sure, but do you really think that was the most appropriate date for them? Since he already did he really complain about her drinking yet?
He did complain about it, now that I look at my notes. Apparently, Lindsey was drunk, because you was like, yeah, she's drunk. And I'm like, she's like that all the time.
Since day one.
I had 3 bottles of wine on the way to Puerto Rico.
Hold on. 3 bottles or 3 bottles?
See, that's what I was saying.
Because I'm not to throw anything out there. I just know that if you get a pack of the wine things, 4 of them make 1 bottle. So then it would have been like 3/4 of a bottle.
Mark said, you know, he just doesn't want to have a repeat of what happened. You know, he's trying to be here for a good time and this and that. And Lindsey's kind of like, you know, she's listening.
Lindsey's all about self.
But she's not really listening.
She's not, because she's all about self. It's all about what she wants. Like, yeah, she wants to be in a marriage, but she don't care about them girls. She don't care about the men. She is there for what she wants, and hopefully Mark, aka Shark Daddy, is along for the ride. And if he's not, then she is not either.
Well, after all that, they sit down with their drinks and they talk, and Mark asks her about her dating history, and she says, you know what, I've dated every engineer in the book. And I'm thinking, is Mark an engineer? I don't remember what he does for a living, but she says she's dated every engineer, and they've all either been taking something from her, or she's given too much, or something like that. And I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe it's your personality, Lindsey, that you feel like you've given so much of yourself and you've never received anything. Because I'm not going to say that didn't happen, but her type of personality, I don't know. Maybe she was a little bit too much. And she was also one of the women outside of Alyssa as well, who was left before the wedding. Like, their fiancés called it off. So maybe something in there. Maybe her drinking may have something to do with it. And maybe as her dad says, lack to know when to control her volume or bring it down.
Too much in general.
You think so? Would you be her friend? Because I've already said it. I didn't necessarily hear you say it.
No. There it is.
Well, Mark says that she is reminiscent of someone that he dated before that used to drink and was pregnant by her ex-boyfriend or whatever. And Lindsey's like, turns out you must be a people pleaser. And I'm thinking, you kind of low-key said that about yourself a minute ago. But when someone brought it to your attention, now it's like, you're a people pleaser. And I'm like, you know what?
I told you she's all about self. That's what she is right now. Maybe she wasn't like that prior relationships because everyone took something from her. But I don't know. I'm just not really feeling Lindsey still.
Well, moving on to Mark and Jasmina. In the morning, I know you want to get to the nitty gritty, but we have to talk about
for that.
Some people's mornings were different than other mornings where you could kind of skip, but this one wasn't one of them. They woke up and it seemed like both of them was like a little standoffish a little bit, like there's something happened we didn't see, because Michael was saying, you know, I feel like you've been a little bit distant from the wedding. I'm thinking, already? Because I really thought that they were kind of moving in a different direction, but no, they're not. You know, not at least not in this episode. And they go on to talk, and it turns out that Jasmina is still thinking about the things that Michael's sisters were saying to her before they came to the honeymoon. You know, afterwards, after brunch and stuff like that, you know how saying Michael's reserved and he doesn't necessarily give us all because, you know, just the past things he's gone through, like he's reserved and just pulled back.
Off.
Yeah, that's what they said, closed off. And he's trying to tell her why he may be that way, you know, for time being, but he's going to work on it. And a little later on, they get more into it because their day tries to start off before the activities on a decent mode, like try to put things behind them, but didn't really work out. So their activity, they start off at the pool. And once again, the same conversation keeps getting brought up. And Michael admits that he doesn't put his all in. You know, we keep hearing the same things from a few people, but I'm like, how do we keep repeating the same things? Because I said it to you too. Like, how they keep repeating the same things on day 3? You're supposed to say it, move on, because
they don't have nothing else to talk about. They're strangers. They have to get to this part and move forward from there. But we also know production has them keep having the same conversation over and over and over again. So it's not really going to be dropped.
Right. So the conversation, again, like I says, goes back to the sisters and why he's maybe this way. And she's like, so you have really come to this process. You've never been in a relationship before with someone that lasted long term, and you think that you're ready to be married now that you feel like you're closed off and things like that. He's like, well, yeah, kind of, you know, pretty much that he feels like he wants it. And like I said before with those two in other videos, I think, because you said that they were matched on trauma bonding, and I think they kind of were too. But I also think, again, that they were matched based on family dynamic. And I'm still going to say that they want them to have this family dynamic. That
Well, you have to get something else in trauma bonding out of that, you know, comes to light. And then the family dynamic. But then it's like, well, what else? Because right now, their personalities, she is very,
she's more strong-minded
about stuff. And he's more calm, relaxed about stuff. And sometimes they could work out really good, but I'm not too sure with them. I still think they're a good couple, but I don't know. Some things that she says wouldn't sit right with me.
I think Jasmina is being a little bit...
Michael. His name's Michael.
The thing that Jasmina is doing, like being, you know, closed off and, single-minded or just thinking about one thing, that's what Michael's doing. So in a way, they're similar when it comes to that, even though she's more open. But right now, she's still harping on the message of, well, why can't you open up for the same person who didn't date anyone in the same state? Moving on to Alyssa and Chris. They wake up in separate rooms. They talk about, you know, I wish I was waking up with my wife. I wish I was waking up with my husband. I mean, technically, you did, just in separate rooms. I mean, it's Alyssa's fault that she doesn't want to participate.
I mean, the thing is, the difference is, Chris actually wants to wake up with Alyssa, the wife that was chosen for him at Married First Sight. Alyssa doesn't want to wake up with Christopher, who was chosen for her on Married First Sight. Because that's what happens at Married First Sight. You get people who, you know, not 100%, who might be who you think. I don't know why this is not making for Alyssa. It's really irritating, to be honest with you.
I don't know. But you know what? They finally come together. And they had a conversation. Alyssa says that no disrespect, but the experts did it wrong.
It's all disrespect because you came on the show Married at First Sight. It's blind dating. You're not know who you're going to get. You just matched on personality and what you might like within each other or trauma bonding.
You're supposed to
That's
not to
what
get
happens.
stressed this season. At least that was for me.
I'm not stressed. I'm irritated because you already know what happens on this show.
Mm-hmm.
She just didn't get on a show that she wanted to get on, so this was her last resort. And I have no idea who she thought she was going to get, because I haven't seen nobody who was like her ex who she was with last time on the show. Never.
That's rumored. We don't know if that's really her ex.
It's
Could be a
rumored.
friend, relative, cousin, whatever. But the point is, she's on the show. For whatever reason, she's on the show.
You know what I wish, before you continue? I wish the experts would come on the show, like, during the honeymoon, and just be like, you know what? You're off. I really wish they would do that.
Why do we need them to come on the show?
Because that's what they're for.
You didn't let me finish. They could phone it in. That's what producers are there for.
Don't matter. I just wish they would do that.
Chris and Alyssa's date is, or excuse me, their date. Their meetup.
Yeah, don't get Alyssa going on here being in the comments.
I wish she would, is paddleboarding. And they go downstairs and she decides that she's actually going to paddleboard. And I'm like, oh, you going to paddleboard? So clearly she likes the water stuff to do, but you know, they're being socially distanced while they're talking. You know, his paddleboard's over here, hers is over there. And Chris is not really good at paddleboarding. He's falling. She's like, you can't stay dry. Okay, whatever. But one thing Chris says after they finish is like, well, let's go scuba diving or snuba diving, whatever it is.
Scuba diving.
She's like, no, I'm not doing that. So while he's doing it, whatever the activity is, you know, looking at the fish, stuff like that, she goes inside and eat a salad.
This part, I'm not gonna lie to you, it took me out. I thought this was really funny because one, she was like, oh, I never seen him without his shirt off before. Well, why would you? You not seen hotel room. That's one. And two, it kind of low-key, not even low-key, I'm going to say it flat out. Kind of seemed like she was just kind of like disgusted with him in his body. And I was like, girl, I know you're not talking.
She's disgusted with him from A
In
to
general,
Z.
just in general. But I'm like, you have nothing to talk about. But then she's over here going to get a big meal, a good meal at that. Just grabbing like, I don't know why. I'm even with him. My mom said, you know, why not just go? Like, Mom, I don't want to go. Because I'm really a good person.
Would you have called me?
See, I wouldn't have this issue. I know
Correct.
I'm on a first site for a reason. But it was the big meal for me. She was just really grubbing. I'm like, see, you don't want to be here, but you taking all these people's money. Just hang out with the man. What's wrong with being friends?
And the part that got me was when he was coming back from the activity, from the scuba snorkeling, whatever he was doing, and he was coming back to talk to her. She's like, telling producers, don't let him come talk to me. I don't want him anywhere near me. And you know what? What has the man done to you? Seriously. What has he done to you? What has he said to you? You're just basing this off of what you heard from his friends, supposedly, and whatever he may have said in the elevator.
Well, what happened was he didn't have that tattoo and wasn't the person who her vision person said that it was going to be.
No, her psychic? Yeah, because
I called him the vision person.
Her psychic said that, you know what, I was going to meet my soulmate. He was going to have pretty eyes and an eagle tattoo.
Alyssa, she is just really taking it up a notch. If you guys remember Katie from last few seasons, I thought Katie was bad. She still is, in my mind. But Alyssa is climbing up the charts because she doesn't have to be so cold to this man, just so rude to this man. If you don't want to be with this man, just don't be with him. If you're actually going to try and not front to other people on the show, like, oh yeah, I am trying, when you're really not trying.
Right. I'm not a bad person. Okay. Let's move on to Noy and Steve. You know, Noy and Steve have a little more conversations that it's hard for me to describe. I mean, they talk about things, but they're not talking about life things. I think they're just talking in general. You know, I don't know. Noy gives me this, she wants to have someone forever and ever, but since she's following men around to different countries, she's also giving me like, you know, you could go with whoever, to be honest, and be happy. Is it just me? Because you did say the same producers were the 90-day vibe. So she's still giving me that, just based off the comments that she gives later on to Steve. But their conversations were pretty much the same conversations all day, too. You know, they talk about how they feel an emotional connection with each other and things like that. Now, one thing that Steve said was, you know, he likes to camp. He goes, wouldn't it be nice to have a camp right next to the beach and we could just, just be out there? No, he's like, I don't do that. That's not what I do.
Oh, she stays in hotels when she travels. She don't get a camper.
She don't even want to, I said.
But doesn't he have a camper?
He does, but she says she don't do the outdoors. And I'm like, so you don't glamp either? But that was just me. He's
What's
like,
a glamp?
Glamping, where you go into cabins and stuff like that. You still outdoor activities, but you come back and sleep in a cabin, not a tent. That's called glamping.
Oh.
Yeah. So then Steve was like, so you just wouldn't even try? She's like, no. He goes, but some campsites, have indoor bathrooms, like indoor plumbing. She's like, it's still outside. I was like, nah, how'd they match you?
She wants to be with Steve. She'll fall in line.
I guess. I don't know. But anyways, their first activity is a picnic. And again, Noi talks about there's emotional connection, things like that. And she actually goes on to tell Steve something. But before I get into that, they were saying, so this is day 3 of marriage. Like, when do we actually, go poop? Let the other one know you're going pooping. And Steve was like, well, something like you got to drop the kids off at school. Or my favorite one is, he didn't say this, but this is my favorite pun that I've heard about that, is, take the kids to the Super Bowl. That's my favorite one about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
But
I never heard none of those before.
maybe you got to be in a certain age group. I don't know. It's not a millennial thing.
It could be. I don't know.
Well, they're laughing and joking and...
You were just laughing and joking.
Yeah, I thought it was cute. Carrying on. But one thing that Noi said was, she thinks she's falling in love. And she told Steve. And Steve's reaction was like, what? Really? It's only day 3. And I get that. I'm like, how on day 3? I'm thinking maybe you're in lust, Noi? But love? And just his reaction to it was like, yeah, okay.
But you know what? I'm going to give her props. At least she is open to this experiment. So you know what? Let her be in love.
She's open to the experiment, yeah, but love already on
Let
day
her be
3?
in love. Let her do her thing. This is what we want to see. I'm not complaining on that. I'm complaining on the other couples that we just talked about, and that's going to come up. So Steve and Noi, walking.
Just let them go? Okay.
Yes.
So next is Katina and Olajuwon. Or is it Isaac?
I call him Sir Isaac. I never stopped calling him Sir Isaac ever since that bachelor party because I knew he weren't going to change.
Well, in the morning, Olajuwon says, you're always smiling. Do you recognize that you smile? Do you recognize you? She's like, really, I do? He's like, yeah, tell him confessional. I like it when she smiles. That's how I know that she's into me. See, all these things, even last week, talked about, her juicy lips. That means she's into me. She's loyal. I'm thinking, how do you know that from somebody kissing? But that's what he says, right? And so he asked Katina, so how did I sleep? She's like, did I spoon you? She's like, heck no, you didn't spoon with me. He goes, I didn't. She's like, no, you need to work on that. He goes, yeah, I'll work on it. But here's my thing. Why would he spoon you when he's used to the wham bam thank you ma'am?
That's not necessarily true. Steve gives me somebody.
Not Steve.
Oh Lord Jesus, Sir Isaac. Gives me he does the wham bam thank you ma'am, but he is also a relationship person. Doesn't mean he's faithful in a relationship. Could be a 1 month, 2 month relationship. But it seems to me he likes women.
But do you know what a wham bam thank you ma'am is?
Of course they do.
Yeah, but a wham bam thank you ma'am is you going home. So there's nobody to cuddle with your pillow.
No, he has somebody to cuddle with, but then he has others
through
outside.
the night. No.
Yes.
No.
He's like, yes.
Well,
yes.
anyways, their first activity after all of that is they're at the gym. And he's pushing at the gym. He's like, you're going to respect this. This is what I do. You're going to smile. I'm thinking, for real?
We don't want no Shanti at the Puerto Rico.
Right.
We're trying to get some margaritas and some tacos.
Well,
and
it
some
was
chilaquiles.
it was Sean T at the workout because he says he's trying not to get her to be in La La Land, because this is
He's not trying to what?
Get her to be in La La Land because she's going to respect his environment while she's at the gym. Period. And her confession was just like that. It was like, if I was in my 20s, I would have cried. He would have made me cry. And I'm thinking, see, girl, you grown now. Nothing about that. Not crying over nobody. That's not. I mean, he's technically your husband. But you don't know him like that.
Mm-mm.
And then he makes a comment talking about, you know what? If she doesn't respect what he does, he'll take his ring off. It's over. He can't have that. I'm like, I think you're doing too much. Now, after all the couples have their activities, they are set up on a group date, And we find out it was set up by Dr. Pepper and the colleagues. They're going to go out on a catamaran to an island just to explore and do, I don't know, couple things or whatever's going to happen out there. And
Single things.
Single things. So
no, you didn't get it. You just said single things. No, single people things.
Oh, single people
because
things.
People aren't together, really.
Now, once they get to the island, right, we learn, or even maybe before, we learned that Lindsey has sent Olajuwon an apology on IG. That's interesting to me. Because
you think Mark talked her into it?
I think so, but here's my thing. Why send it on IG when he's there? It's not like he's somewhere else. Like, you could have stood with Mark, you know, at a distance if you felt like he was unsafe and gave an apology. What do you think?
I don't know. It kind of seems like something that she would do. So, at least she halfway apologized for the moment. Get into the women's conversation. Tell me, how did you feel like Lindsey came off?
Lindsey always comes off like Lindsey to me. Like, she hasn't changed. She comes off as harsh, brash, rude, can't read the room, and maybe a little liquored up at times. But what do you think about the conversation that Lindsey had with the women, and especially Lindsey and Katina?
Well, before we get Lindsey and Katina, I believe it was Lindsey and Alyssa first.
Okay.
I don't know how the conversation started, but I think that Alyssa felt like she kept egging her on, like asking about her relationship, and Alyssa kind of got irritated, was like, move on. And then with Katina, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I'm mixed with it. Because some people are saying that they get kind of mean girl vibes from Katina.
And Jasmina.
And of course Alyssa. But at the same time, Katina was defending her husband.
True.
Like she should have.
True.
But for the peace of the group, should she had let it go? I think she should have let it go. But I can see why they would want to keep the distance from Lindsey, because Lindsey, she's the type of person who's going to keep going on and on and on and on and on about it. She doesn't want to be the bigger person. So, I'm not saying it's up for somebody else to be the bigger person.
Right.
But at a point in time, you have to be like, I don't even know this girl. I don't gotta be friends with her. We don't gotta get unity tattoos together. Just have a regular conversation. And if she doesn't want to have it or she doesn't want to agree with it, just move on. That's how I feel. But, you know, everyone has a different personality.
Yeah, well, Katina gets up and leaves, and guess who follows her? Alyssa. I'm thinking Alyssa.
Because she don't like Lindsey. Since day one.
And I think it was vice versa. You know, the women didn't really have the best talk amongst the group.
Because they're not friends with each other. If you're not friends with each other, you're not going to tell all the business like Lindsey wants to. Because Lindsey is living in a delusional land because she's not understanding what she's doing to everyone else. It's always what everyone else is doing to Lindsey. That's the issue. Right.
But when the men are talking, I find it interesting that Steve kind of took the ropes with that. Is that, you know, he let the group know that Noi said that she loved him already. And the group was kind of like, what, already? You know, kind of had the same reaction as Steve, but at the same time, you know, I think it was Mark that chimed in. The way he took it was like he understands, because I think he's feeling the same vibe that Lindsey's kind of gave him, the love vibe, because she actually does say it. So then we see them come back together on the boat. They didn't do much. I guess they just like sailed out for like the day and then came back. But on the way back, they were playing Never Have I Ever. That's when it gets juicy. Okay. And the first person to go out with Never Have I Ever, who dropped all their fingers, was Steve. And I was really surprised at that. For someone to be...
So was Noi. Isn't it? So that's your man? Steve, your man?
No, I don't have week to week. For him to drop all his fingers, like, Steve has done some things. He's just not just a traveler, stuff like that.
He cheated.
Yeah, but he cheated when he was a teenager. So, you know, sometimes you can kind of forgive those things because you really want mature. But if you're cheating, like, now, that's an issue. But the question that came up in Never Have I Ever was from Olajuwon, or
Isaac.
Has anyone ever... I don't even know if the game was still going on or not, but it doesn't matter.
He just switched the conversation.
Has anyone ever, you know, been with another family member or cousin or friend? I'm
and
like,
you know what's
what?
funny about that part? Like, everyone was looking like you, like, And he was like, you know, it was, you know, with two people in the same family, you know. a mother, and a daughter.
Yeah, but everybody else was like, no.
Still
Like, what are you talking about?
Like, he was trying to explain it even further, trying to get into details, like it was going to make it any better. But the more details he gave, the more it was like, no.
Right.
Like, who does that?
But I think some of the group was like, you mean like a threesome? They're like, no. But at the same time, it's like, well, you know, if you offered me another woman, I would take it.
I'm sure he would have did it.
And I was like, oh my goodness.
Like, how do you even come in that situation with somebody? And how is it even okay for both of them, for you to pick him up at the train station, if that's what happened?
But it wasn't at the same time. It was on different occasions, but that's not the point. That is, to me, that is something that you save for your wife. But then again, we see how he can be just out there like that, because remember at the wedding when he was being Mr. Stripper Man, so he's used to putting his business on Front Street. I guess he thinks that's cute.
Did they say they knew about each other?
The mother and daughter knew about each other, but the excursion didn't happen at the same time.
This is trifling.
But you know,
could you imagine?
No, I can't. But the point is, like, you just got married, so when did you really give up your Isaac? Like, seriously, when did you give up Isaac?
You know he didn't. And so, if I was Katina, I'm not gonna lie, I would have been low-key embarrassed. I mean, I guess everyone has their kinks, but I don't feel like that was something that should have been brought out
amongst the group. I don't think so either. No. So now they get back to the hotel, and the couples are having dinner, or trying to. Okay, and we start with Noy and Steve. You know, their conversation is the same conversation again. It was almost like, was yesterday Groundhog Day? Because you know what, that's exactly how the conversation was. About the same thing over and over. I actually kind of got a little bit bored about that. And a little bit I was kind of wanting Steve to let Noy know, like, you know what, I'll get there when I get there. And he tried to tell her. But Noy says she's someone who wears her heart on her sleeve, and you can tell that. But to keep having the same conversation for someone who told you honestly, just like she told him honestly, that 3 days was too much. Can we just let that be? Can we just have fun for right now? Now we'll move on to Jasmina and Michael. They're still upset. Now Michael's really upset now because he feels like during the boat trip back, they were having a conversation. He was saying something and she cut him off. I don't think she cut him off with anything he was saying. It's just like, I think that Michael's just so used to being like the person who, you know, is used to being by himself and XYZ. He's so structured that any little thing would trigger him. And I just think that because they've been on such a rocky standoffish path, he was just triggered by really anything.
Well, to be fair to him, if someone was to tell you, sorry you felt that way, and try to mean it as an apology, that's not an apology. That's just you saying, oh, well, you know, whatever, that's you, that you felt that way, so my bad. It's not a my bad. If you're really, truly sorry about something, you just apologize. Especially if you're going to be in a marriage with somebody. Because how else is it supposed to work? I mean, yeah, he let it roll off his back for now. But now in the future, because he's already reserved, and I'm sure he thinks about everything in his mind, he's already going to know, like, oh, if something happens, she's not going to apologize. She's going to be like, you know, whatever, you felt that way, it is what it is. And she didn't really seem like she cared that she gave that apology.
Well, like I said earlier, it's like, you know, yes, he's naturally standoffish. We know that. His family, his friends have said it to him, so he knows it. He knows it, but just hasn't took the time to see if he could change it. But he's saying he'll try to work on it now. But Jasmina is standoffish, too. She's just not as standoffish the same way Michael is. So that, to me, is a clash. Now, we'll move on to Katina and Olajuwon.
No. What I say about Katina is she been drinking. She been drinking because there ain't no way she can go from kind of being like, oh, kind of like standoffish in the beginning because of what he was doing on the boat to I'm in love.
Yep.
And trying to get into bed with those dollar store rose petals in the bed. I was not impressed. But what do you really think about Katina and Isaac's conversation? Do you think she really cares about him saying that he likes to have, you know, threesomes and stuff?
I mean, she did say before, the past is the past. It's whatever she's going to put up with, put it like that. Well, if it's the last week of the honeymoon next week for these couples, I'm really going to need Alyssa to go home. Like, just give it up and go home, because Chris can't give 1% of anything. That's not hope for anything. You know, you have to be in it all the way, and we all know Alyssa's not in it all the way. Now, speaking of Mark and Lindsey, do you want to take the dinner scene? What do you think about that?
I thought I think Mark was trying to woo her in a type of way that she wouldn't blow up. And she did blow up anyways. Because he does want her to slow down. Because she is too much. But I can also see it from Lindsey's point. Like, well, we consummated marriage. You doing this. You doing that. Like, now you want to slow down. Like, why now?
Sometimes men do that. They can get what they want out of you. And be like, you know what? Maybe I'll call you tomorrow. Maybe I text you tomorrow. Maybe we ought to slow down.
Well, they're married, so you can't do that.
No, you can't do that.
Well, you could, actually.
I don't think
you really could.
I don't necessarily consider it gaslighting. I think it's part of the conversation that he heard with the men and Steve. With Noy saying how he loved him already. And since Lindsey is already giving those vibes of like, I love you. She's even said it. Like, you're the best. You're the perfect match. I think Mark is now finally seeing like, whoa. Like,
That's
whoa.
exactly what his face was.
Yeah. So, he didn't necessarily seem fazed by that, if you ask me, her getting up, leaving, talking about, you think this is romantic?
It's day 3. She's been doing that already.
If you think this is romantic, don't plan anything for me again, because I could you want me to pull back? I'll pull all the way back. I'm thinking, okay.
All right, well, that's the end of this week's episode. I'm really excited for next week because Alyssa needs to go home. We did see the after show last week when she got up off the stage because Keisha was asking her all the needed questions. But it's really like no point for her to be here. It's kind of waste of her time and her energy. And I don't want to see like a side show of her. She just needs to be cut off.
She's playing the alleged victim just like Lindsey is playing the alleged victim.
Well, let us know what you guys thought about this week's episode in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. Anything else you want to add, Mom?
About this episode? No, I think we pretty much covered it all. I am interested in seeing what's going to come up next week because it looks like some couples get lovey-dovey, but then it reels back in. So we'll have to see. It's still week to week.
All right. So hope you all have a great week, and we will see you next week.
Thank you all again for watching. And as always, live simply, be grateful.